everybody, welcome to Algebra Online. We are now in Chapter 2, or Unit 2, and today we're going to be looking at patterns and relationships. If you take a look at our learning target for today, you're going to be able to write a linear equation by looking at a pattern. And you should be able to identify the pattern as its starting value in the linear equation. So we're really going to look at that starting value. We're also going to be looking at how it's growing and slope. Let's first describe the graph of y equals x squared minus 2x minus 8. So right away, when you look at that equation, I want you to think quadratic. Why quadratic? Is because it has an x squared. So right here, I recognize that there's an x squared, so I know this is going to be quadratic. And the graphs of quadratic functions or equations, they are parabolas, right? They are that U shape. So I want you to write down in your notes, I want you to write down a nice header for today. We're in lesson 211, fresh new unit, fresh new chapter. Make sure that you write down the learning target so that way you know what the objective is for the day and what we're learning. And then let's write down the y equals x squared minus 2x minus 8. And then we're going to describe this as a parabola. And we know that this parabola is going to be opening upward because in front of the x squared is positive. Remember when we had a negative, the parabola or the U-shape graph was going down. So we know it's going to be a positive parabola. And we know that we're going to have a vertex, and we know that vertex is the minimum value. All right, cool. So what I'd love for you to do is pause this video and write this down. If you noticed that I printed off a note sheet for you and you're able to print that off, cool. I started to put kind of those in there for these types of problems that might be more difficult to draw these. So you do have that note sheet there. If not, that's okay. Take your time, draw the boxes, write down the questions, and when you're ready, push play. Okay, so the first thing is we want to see what this pattern is growing by. So we have figure 1, figure 2, figure 3. Do you notice how this pattern is growing? So this figure number 1 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 boxes. All right, and so it's over here, it said, we're going to make a table. We want to know what the figure 0 looks like. And then ultimately, we're going to write what is the rule, fancy way to say, what is the equation that represents this pattern. Okay, so I like to start with the table personally myself. I like to look and see what the pattern is and then write out a table. So I know with the table, I have my x and my y values. And figure 1, and I'm going to leave some space always, because we eventually want to know what figure 0 looks like. So I'll always leave space and put a 0. And now let's look at figure number 1. So figure number 1 has 7 boxes. Okay, so figure number 2 and figure number 3, let's go ahead and count those out. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And figure 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 has 13. Okay, so hopefully you notice that the pattern is starting to, or it is growing by 3, plus 3, plus 3 each time. From figure 1 to figure 2, 2 to 3, it's growing by 3 of those boxes each time. So therefore, what would figure 0 look like? Well, something plus 3 gives us 7. And that would be 4, right? Because 4 plus 3 gives us 7. Plus 3 is 10, plus 3 is 13. So right there, you found out what figure 0 would look like. It would be 4 of those boxes. Or the squares. Let's just say 4 squares. Now you could draw it out and see where it's growing, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the base of it grows or holds strong. Then it's increasing by 1 here and then 2 more on the other side. So we would be taking this one off, and we'd be taking these off to leave us with 1, 2, 3, 4. So these two would go away, and this one would go away. Now you could do that, draw it out, or we're just going to write, therefore, let's just call them squares. Squares, boxes, it's all the same. Okay, so now we want to write an equation. So an equation, because this is linear, linear means that it is growing by the same number each time, right? And the x's are also growing by 1, 0 figure, 1 figure, 2 figure, 3 figure. And that's important to note too. So I'm going to off to the side say these are all +1. So they're all growing by like a constant number, a constant rate, and so that is going to be our slope. And so it is linear. So if it's linear, we're going to use y equals mx plus b. There. Mx plus b, where m represents the slope. Okay, the slope is the change in y over the change in x. And so how is the y changing and how is the x changing? So I'm going to write that kind of like in the middle. The slope is how the y is changing. And if you notice, the y is changing by 3 each time. So I'm going to write 3. And then how are the x's changing? Well, they're changing by 1. And those two numbers are always dividing in slope, and it is 3 divided by 1, which is 3. Now that's our m. That's m. M is slope in the slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. So let's go ahead and fill that out. So now we have y equals 3x. And the plus b, that's the 0 figure. And our 0 figure had 4 squares. So the 0 figure is the b. And that is your rule. Y equals 3x plus 4 is the rule, is the equation for that pattern. Okay, let's try another one. All right, so how much is this pattern growing by? Well, let's go ahead and make a table. We have our x and our y. Let's go ahead and always write down 0 because we're always going to be looking for 0. And then we have 3 figures, so 1, 2, and 3. And how many does figure 1 have squares? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many does figure 2 have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And figure 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this pattern is increasing by, let's see, 5 plus 2 is 7. 7 plus 2 is 9. And these are all increasing by 1. Cool. So that means our 0 figure, something plus 2, is 5, and that is 3. Because 3 plus 2 is 5, and we found the 0 figure. So the 0 figure has, has 3 squares. Okay, so what is the rule? So we're going to write y equals right away, and our slope is the change in y, 2, over the change of x, 1, so it's 2 over 1, which our pattern is growing by 2, and that means our slope is 2. So y equals 2x plus the 0, and the 0 is 3, done. Yeah, not too bad, right? Okay, so let's change it up a little bit. How about we go backwards? How about I give you the equation and you fill out the table instead of filling out the table and then the equation. So take a look. We have y equals 3x plus 1. That is the equation that goes with this table. So we're going to fill out this table. Well, since this says x, couldn't I take what x is, plug it in, and get y? Sure I can. So let's do it. All right, so I'm going to plug in 0 first for x. So y equals 3 times 0 plus 1. That equals 1, right? Because y equals 1. Good. Let's do it again. Let's do it for 1, right? So then we have y equals 3 times 1 plus 1. Now 3 times 1 is 3. 3 plus 1 is 4. So y equals 4. So 4 goes here. Let's go ahead and plug in 2. So I have y equals 3 times 2 plus 1. And 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. So y equals 7. I'm going to stop right now and just see if I can recognize a pattern since we already know that this is linear. And what I notice already is that, what I notice already is that this is increasing by plus 3, plus 3, plus 3, right there, right? It's growing by 3. 3 each time, and the zero figure is 1. So did we really have to plug these in? No. You could look at the number in front of x and say that's the slope. So I know that these are increasing by 3 each time, and I know the zero figure, I have to start at 1. So I can just simply say this is plus 3, plus 3, plus 3. So this is 10, and this is 13. All right, now's the time for you to try one on your own. Let's see how you do. Pause this video, please. Try this out and press play when you're ready. Okay, so let's see how you did. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to make a table with an X and a Y. I'm always going to put my zero figure and then my 1 and 2 and 3 because I have 3 figures, right? Figure 1, figure 2, figure 3. Now, hopefully this one wasn't too confusing. Figure 1 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes. There's 1 in the middle. And that's okay if you didn't see that. If normally, like I was in class, maybe that would be a question that would come up and students might ask. So no worries if that was confusing. And so for figure 1, we have 5 squares. Okay, so figure 2, we have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And we have 5, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, so this pattern is growing by how much each time? 5 plus 4 gives us 9. 9 plus 4 gives us 13. So some number plus 4 will give us 5, and that is our 0, and our zero figure is 1. That means that if we were to draw figure 0, it would just have this box right here in the middle. All right, so figure 0 would look like 1 square. And the rule, y equals 4x plus 1, because it's growing by 4. These are all growing by 1. And our zero figure is 1. All right, guys, that's it for today's lesson. Jump onto Zoom if you have any questions during our class time, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. See you guys next time. Bye.